It is the one and only Dr. Randy Easterling. And good morning, sir. It's good to have you.
Good morning, Mr. Gallo. How are you today?
Good. This was in the stack for a long time before I even get into anything else, and I haven't done this one, so it's appropriate time to move it out of the collated stack here.
Okay.
Los Angeles Times investigation has found that pharmacies in several northwestern Mexican cities are selling counterfeit prescription pills laced with stronger and deadlier drugs and passing them off as legitimate pharmacies or pharmaceuticals. In Tijuana, reporters found that pills sold as OxyContin tested positive for fentanyl, while pills sold as Adderall tested positive for methamphetamine. It's more likely now to find them contaminated than not. Testing conducted farther south in Cabo San Lucas and nearby San Jose del Cabo bore similar results, although even weaker painkillers, including pills sold as hydrocodone, tested positive for fentanyl. You also heard earlier from Lindsey Graham when we played that one that this is not happenstance. This is intentional. These people are doing this to add to the addiction, and it is working across America. Your thoughts on this?
Well, there's absolutely nothing that surprises me that would happen south of the border. I can assure you that these press pills that we see in the United States now, I tell people, and it's backed up by science and evidence, that if you take a pill today, wherever you are, whether you're on a college campus, whether you're out on the street or whatever, you take a pill that didn't come from a pharmacy, it has fentanyl in it. All we're talking about is how much fentanyl. Is it enough just to give you a buzz, or is it enough to kill you? But there's fentanyl in just about every pill, if not every pill, that doesn't come from a pharmacy.
In those tests that they were doing, almost 71 to 75% were contaminated.
Well, last year we had about 110,000 unintentional drug overdoses in the United States, the highest in the history of our country. About 75 to 80% of those are opioid related, and of the opioids, probably another 75 or 80% are fentanyl.
But when you have this many people coming across the border, you can't stop it. There was a traffic stop in Smith County in Texas, and this wasn't that long ago. They found 42,000 fentanyl pills in that car. 42,000 fentanyl pills in that one car.
Well, I mean, that's where we are today, and that's unfortunate. The border problem is a huge problem, and I think everyone recognizes that. But we don't seem to have the impetus to do something about it on either party. Neither party has been able to solve this in the last 20 years.
Well, let's go closer to home here, and then I ask you about a couple of these things. And I know we're working our way through the legislative process on this Tianeptine, and I'll be honest with you. This is the first I've heard of. About 6 months ago, Tianeptine didn't do nothing about it. But what do you know about this, and how long has it been in your focus, in your practice?
Well, unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common. And Tianeptine is very similar to, or it's a newer tricyclic antidepressant. Now, we use tricyclic antidepressants quite often 30, 40, 50 years ago. They've been pretty much replaced by the newer antidepressant medications that have a better side effect profile and are more efficacious. But on a normal doses used, and it's legal in most European countries, in Latin America and in Asia, it's used for depression and mood alteration, for anxiety and so on and so forth. At higher doses, however, it can cause an opioid effect, and it is an opioid. It binds at the mu and delta receptors. You've heard us all talk, all the doctors you've had on the show to address drug addiction have talked about receptor sites, and that's something that is the key to this entire problem. Is Tianeptine binds at the mu receptor site, and which is the opioid receptor site, and on large doses can have pretty much the same effect as heroin, morphine, oxycodone, and fentanyl.
Is it different than from Kratom? It's not plant-based?
Yeah, it is different.
It's just a chemical?
Yeah, it's a chemical. In the United States, of course, and in Mississippi, unfortunately, it's sold in convenience stores and online. It's sold usually as Zaza, Tiana Red, Tiana. It's also, again,
is it in a drink or in a bar, or how's it sold?
Well, it's usually in a powder. I think you can get it in a liquid also. But if you're tall enough and got enough money to put your money on the counter, you can buy it within there's probably 10 stores within several miles of here that have it.
And legally, too, by the way. They're not doing anything illegal, unless the legislature acts.
Mm-hmm. Well, there have been, I think, 4 states or 5 states that have either banned it or regulated.
Yeah.
Alabama, Tennessee, Minnesota, Michigan, and Georgia, I believe. And hopefully we'll be the 6th or 7th.
Do you know, are you tracking the bill numbers on this?
I don't have it right now. I'm not tracking
it
on
is
day-to-day
still
basis.
alive.
Yeah, the Tianeptine appears to be still alive. And hopefully if whatever legislators are listening out there, please understand this is a very dangerous drug. Last year, I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 Tianeptine addicts. This year, I've seen 5 or 6. The most recent 2 days ago, I admitted to my chemical defense unit. When I asked him about Tianeptine as compared to oxycodone or fentanyl or heroin, he said it's much more addictive. The withdrawal symptoms are much worse. He said I have to take it 2 hours every day, every 2 hours, just to be able to function.
Is it worse or better than Kratom?
Well, we're not seeing as much of it as we see of Kratom, so it's hard to equivalate that. But
is this bill inclusive of Kratom to ban it also?
No, not the Tianeptine bill, as I understand it. No, it does not have Kratom.
Does that need to be put on there?
Well, I think there were some Kratom bills out there, and I'm not exactly sure where we are on that.
Yeah.
Kratom needs to be banned too. It's just as dangerous. We're just seeing more of the Kratom, but the Tianeptine is becoming more and more common. Mm-hmm. You know, these come in waves, and we're at the beginning of the wave of Tianeptine.
I know that you like to do more fishing these days, but do we have a lot of addiction medicine specialists in our state for the future?
Well, like any other physician, we don't have enough, and there's a small cadre of us that do addiction medicine, and of course my primary training is in family medicine. I still do a great deal of family medicine. That's my heart. That's my love. But I have a subspecialty of addiction medicine, and most addiction specialists. Certainly my age is, let's say 45 or 50 or older, are trained in something else, and then have additional training in addiction medicine.
I'm just wondering, because in the future, with the situation of medical marijuana, that specialty is going to be needed, I would think.
Well, yeah, exactly. The medical marijuana thing is just, we're on the cusp of some of the problems it's going to cause, and it's going to take a great deal of effort to keep this thing under control.
When we do bring up the Kratom, though, we always get people on the C-Spire text line or on Twitter or feedback saying, look, I've used this, it helps me out, and please don't do it. Don't ban it.
Well, I mean, those are individuals, and those are individual reports. And when you say they helped you, what does that mean? Did it make you feel better? Did it make you feel different? Mm-hmm. Sure. I can fill this bottle full of Jack Daniels and make you feel better. I can make you feel different. I can make you feel different than the way you are now. That's not necessarily something that's good medicine. And there's no evidence from the FDA or any other research.
You say that about medical marijuana.
Well, sure, yeah. It changes. It takes you from one place to another. Mm-hmm. Now, there's no evidence that Kratom or Tianeptine from the FDA is effective or efficacious in doing any of the things they claim that it does.
Talking about Tianeptine coming into the view of a lot of people here is this thing called Delta-8. That's something new, too, and I have no idea what that is, but we'll get it from the expert here, coming back in a moment or two. I was reading this. Delta-8 has not been evaluated by FDA, so it's unclear if the substance is harmful or not. The FDA has had reports of adverse events that happened after using Delta-8, some of which included hallucinations, vomiting, tremors, anxiety, dizziness, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Same thing that happened to me when I accidentally watched CNN. But what is this Delta-8 stuff here?
Well, Delta-8 is kind of interesting. It is an isomer or a mirror image of Delta-9. Now, Delta-9 is the psychoactive ingredient or the euphoric ingredient in the cannabis sativa plant. A lot of people don't realize that when you're talking about marijuana per se, which is what you can buy in the quote medical marijuana stores in Mississippi now and many other states, is made up of, depending on who you read, between 100 to 120 cannabinoids, and those are all separate chemicals that have their own, whether they're efficacious or not, they have their own effect on the human body. Delta-8 is an isomer of Delta-9, which again is the psychoactive ingredient in THC. The dangerous thing about Delta-8 is the way it's created. It is actually goes through what's called a synthetic conversion. They take Delta-9 and they use household ingredients such as bleaches and solvents and so forth to concentrate and derive the Delta-8 from the Delta-9 and concentrate to where you get the side effects. So it's dangerous in and of itself, but the thing that adds a heightened degree of danger is the manner in which it's produced. You don't know what you don't know what in the heck's in the thing, you know, and so it does have all those side effects: dry mouth, red eyes, euphoria, hallucinations. There's been one pediatric death reported in the United States from Delta-8.
Is this also packaged invented through gas stations?
No, to my knowledge, you cannot buy Delta-8 in gas stations. To my knowledge,
I was going to say, I'm sure because it actually comes from the marijuana plants. You couldn't do that.
Yeah. But again, you're talking about the convenience stores. The Tianeptine and the Kratom are just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than Delta-8. So, 6 of one, half dozen the other. The others you can buy in a convenience store.
Help me. Let's go back to where are they getting the Delta-8? You got to get the marijuana first of all to do this, or how?
Well, I'm assuming they derive from the cannabis plant, the cannabis sativa plant. You get the Delta-9 out by some chemical reaction using these household solvents.
Here's a thought: if you go and you legally buy, you've got a prescription card to do that, and you go by and you legally buy your marijuana, whatever the ounce level is. Mm-hmm. Can you take it home and juice it up on the waxing part of that, or do some things to it, cook it in a different way to maximize the effects of that?
I'm sure there's a mechanism to do that. If not, it will be on the street pretty soon. But you can take the important thing to addressing what you're saying is getting the Delta-9 out, and then through synthetic conversion, converting it to the Delta-8, which is the more psychoactive if it's highly concentrated.
Now, I'm getting, and this is about 2 or 3 people telling me, and one of them is Paul and Brandon, that you can buy Delta-8 at gas stations in Pearl as gummies.
You can. I'm not aware of that, but
I don't see how you could do that if it derives from the marijuana plant itself, unless they're getting it from hemp or something like that.
There are some places where you can buy it legally in other states. Now, I'm not sure about Mississippi, but the mechanism of creating Delta-8 is illegal. That's the synthetic conversion. But once you get the product, whether you can buy it in a convenience store here or not, I don't know.
Let me say, is it legal here? Let me read this. Delta-8 has become popular across the U.S. because in many states marijuana is illegal. Delta-8 is also illegal in many states as well. It became legal in Georgia after Governor Brian Kemp signed House Bill 213. In fact, Delta-8 is legal in every state. Well, it says it here. Delta-8 is legal in every state below the Mason-Dixon line. In Mississippi, there's a bit of a gray area as the Farm Bill allows hemp. But hemp-derived products are exempt. However, some retailers won't ship it to the state. Louisiana allows the sale and the use of Delta-8 but bans inhalable products, which brings us to this. Is it in the vaping mechanism or delivery also?
I would assume that it is, and you're right. The 2018 Farm Bill did allow the sale of hemp, but again, the conversion of Delta-9 from hemp or from CBD to Delta-8 is illegal. Now, once you get the Delta-8, it's still questionable. Evidently, based on what these people are saying, it is being sold in some stores, but it's up in the air as to whether it's legal or illegal. Marijuana is still a Schedule I drug by the DEA. It's still illegal to have marijuana, but during the Obama administration, the Cole Memorandum came out and basically said, it is illegal. We're just not going to enforce it.
Do you know we have any laws in the state that prohibits anybody under 18 from actually buying that? I understand that if you're over 18, you can, but actually anybody at 13, 14 years old comes in there and buys it. Is there a law that says they can't buy it underage?
Are you talking about the Delta-8?
I'm talking about any of this, Tianeptine or any of it.
No, my 5-year-old granddaughter, if she can put the money on the counter, can buy Kratom or Tianeptine. It's not illegal.
Either one of them, and I would guess Delta-8 also.
I would assume so if it's being sold over the counter.
By the time we get our hands around one of these things, something else pops up. It's been a while when we were talking about bath soaps and things such as that.
Yeah, it's like fire ants. You put out one pile, some pops up somewhere else. But
are most of these service stations, and I use the old word service stations, most of these convenience stores owned by the same people or same company, or?
I'm not aware of that. The last I saw was not long ago. I was coming back from the coast, and I stopped at a convenience store on 49. As you walk in, to the left was this huge display of Kratom. But interesting enough, and it didn't dawn on me until I heard Steve Maxwell, the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, talk. That convenience store is across the street from an elementary school, and that's not an accident.
Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while about this. How do you think the medical marijuana thing is going when you talk to doctors out there? Because from what I get, it's really kind of shaky right now, but again, it's still formulative. But there are a lot of people saying, man, we got to get some subscribers on here that we've got a lot of money invested.
Yeah, I actually got a call last night around 9 o'clock from a pharmacist wanting to know something specific about the medical marijuana thing that he had run across, and he didn't have an answer to. My only response was, you need to call the pharmacy board this morning and find out. I'm on the consulting committee or group or whatever for cannabis. I think the governor appointed me but we haven't met yet. I think we're going to meet fairly soon, but it's an advisory committee that was established in the statute, and so I'm looking forward to our first meeting to see where we are with all this.
What was his question?
I'm sorry?
What was his question?
Actually, he had got a prescription earlier that day for a hydrocodone, and he ran the PMP, which is required. That's the pharmacy monitoring. And on the pharmacy monitoring sheet he got, it had cannabis listed on there. This individual had gotten cannabis filled through, had been certified and filled through some of these stores, and I think there were 3 or 4 different locations within a 2 or 3 day period. And his question was, is this supposed to be on the PMP? And I can't answer that. The PMP is run by the pharmacy board, and but he had been told it wasn't going to be on there. And then the second question is, okay, you've got someone that's purchased cannabis through one of these legal shops now at 4 different places. Should I fill the narco? So why are you using marijuana and narco at the same time?
Well,
I don't have an answer to that. Those are just one of many things we're going to have to work through.
It's every single day we hear more and more as far as the fentanyl in our state, and certainly in college towns and everywhere else, and it is an epidemic. And to know that we're getting absolutely positively no help from Washington, D.C. is a crime. It's almost like the dam has got leaks in it, and we're ready for it to bust, and we get the president who wants to poke a couple of more holes in it.
Well, I probably shared with you the day before Thanksgiving last year, I was coming out of a local restaurant there in Vicksburg, and a car careened through the parking lot and ran into a coffee shop, and they drugged this young man out who had a heartbeat, was not breathing, has already turned him blue, and the police had some Narcan, but they said it was out of date, and the lawyers wouldn't let them use it. And they said it was a year out of date. So I went and ran to my truck and got my Narcan that I have in there that was 5 years out of date and sprayed it in his nose, and he got up and walked to the ambulance. And he's alive today. Did
you put your cape back in the phone booth?
I did, but the problem with the superheroes now with the cell phones, we don't have as many phone booths, So
well, either that, and all of a sudden a lawyer shows up and wants to talk to you for some reason.
But what happened with me was not because I was a physician, because I had Narcan. You could have done exactly the same thing, and so we encourage people, especially if they have family members that have opioid use disorder, to have Narcan in their cars and in their home. You can save someone's life.
Any other bills that you are kind of tracking here that as we wind down the session?
Well, of course, we're looking, or I'm following
very closely. I didn't have a chance to talk to you about the hospital association.
Yeah, about postpartum expansion. Hopefully, we're heading in the right direction on that. That's much needed.
Always good seeing you, sir. Looking good.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.